Good morning. I hope that you are doing well and that your family is doing well and that you're healthy. Take a moment just to ask Hashem to bless those who are not well with a refuah shalema and to daven to Hashem to keep us all healthy and safe. Yesterday I mentioned that in the coming Torah portion, this Shabbos, we read a story about how the Jews complained. They complained against Moshe, they complained against Hashem, they complained again about the food. And Hashem sent snakes that invaded the Jewish camp and started to bite people. And of course, they were venomous snakes, so people began to die. At that point, the people realize that they've done wrong, and they return to Hashem and they speak to Moshe and say, what can we do? And Hashem tells Moshe that what he should do is he should take a tall pole, and on the top of the pole, he should place a snake, and any person who is bitten will look at that snake and they would be healed and survive. And Moshe does this, and he makes a snake out of copper, and as I mentioned yesterday, this becomes the international symbol of the medical fraternity. So ostensibly what it's telling us is this, that if people were attacked by the snake, they had to look upwards. They had to look up towards Hashem and petition Hashem and recognize that Hashem is the only one who could heal them. And I often think that when you take a pill, you pretty much do the same thing. You take the pill and you throw your head back in order to swallow it. So it's also Hashem's methodology to get us to look upwards. It's not the pill that's going to heal. It's when we look up to Hashem and we recognize that Hashem is the healer, that's when we start to get better. Now the only question is, if the goal was to get the people to look upwards, to look towards Hashem, and therefore to heal, why did Moshe have to put a snake, a copper snake, on top of this pole? Surely it would have been more appropriate to put a copper Torah or a copper menorah or something that would symbolize God. But instead he puts the snake, which is almost like rubbing their nose in it and saying, look up and see your punishment and then eat humble pie, and that's how you will heal. So there's a very deep message in this. The Talmud says, V'chi nachash meimes, v'chi nachash mechaya. Does that snake on the pole have the power to give life? Just like does the snake on the ground have the power to kill? It says, no, Hashem has the power. Hashem decides who lives and who does not. And looking up at the pole was a reminder that Hashem is in control. But there's a deeper message to this. You look up and what do you see? You see a snake again. When you look at the ground, you see a snake that's venomous. You look up and you see another snake. What's the message? The message is that we have three choices as to how we look at a difficult situation, particularly a situation that generates anxiety and uncertainty. The natural way is you look down, you look at the threat, and you focus on the threat, and you talk about the threat. You talk about those snakes, and you talk about how venomous they are and how dangerous it is. Now, of course, you have to be careful, and that's what you're supposed to do. Take precautions to ensure that you're not bitten by the snake. But you can't live your life fixated on the threat. So the first thing is lift your eyes. When you lift your eyes, you start to look at things differently and say, I'm not going to only focus on the threat. I'm going to look at where do these things come from and understand that there is a master who controls what's going on in the world, and that is Hashem, and that brings me to a healthier place. I'm in a better headspace. I feel more relaxed. I feel more confident, and I recognize who I need to turn to in order to get through this. And the third and ultimate perspective is when I look up, I see the snake, but now suddenly the snake is not a threat. I see that same snake now as the source of life, as the source of bracha. In other words, when I look at the circumstances in my life and I feel overwhelmed and there's so many bad things happening, really the Jewish way is to look up and say, if Hashem is sending this to me, then embedded in this situation is an opportunity that this situation itself will bring me new life, new strength, new bracha. And once we are able to recognize that Hashem only sends us things in order to give us the opportunity for greater bracha, in order to give us the opportunity to learn and to grow as people, and then we try and learn and grow, that's when the brachas begin to flow. That's when things turn around from venom to the serum of life itself. Hashem should help us to be able to gain that perspective sooner than we expect, and through it to experience Hashem's richest brachas in our lives immediately. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe and stay sane.